If I hadn't spilled coffee on a stranger's shoes that Tuesday morning, I wouldn't be running a $5 million startup today. It was one of those rushed mornings in New York. Raining, crowded, and me already late for work, juggling my laptop bag and a large cup of coffee. I turned a corner in a crowded cafe, and the next thing I knew, half my drink was all over a man's immaculate brown leather shoes. Mortified, I grabbed napkins, apologizing like my life depended on it. He just laughed. "It's fine," he said, "but you owe me another coffee." That was the start of a conversation I had no idea would change my entire career. At the time, I was just another mid-level marketing employee, dreaming of doing something bigger, but with no clue where to start. He was, well, I didn't know yet who he was or how important he'd become in my story.
We ended up sitting at a small table by the window, steam rising from our new cups of coffee. He introduced himself as Alex. Mid-30s, easy smile. The kind of guy who looked like he didn't worry about subway delays or spilled drinks. When I told him I worked in marketing for a mid-tier fashion brand, he leaned forward and asked, "If you could run your own thing, what would it be?" It was such a random question. I laughed it off, but he pressed me. So I told him, half joking, half serious, about my idea for a platform that connected small, independent clothing designers with customers who valued unique, sustainable fashion. Instead of nodding politely, Alex's eyes lit up. "That's actually brilliant," he said. "Why aren't you doing it?" I shrugged. "Because I don't have money, or time, or honestly, the guts." He grinned. "Maybe you just need the right partner."
2 days later, I got an email. Subject line, "About your fashion idea." It was from Alex. I almost didn't open it. I thought maybe he was just being polite at the cafe and this would be some vague keep in touch message. Instead, it was a detailed proposal. He'd written bullet points on how my idea could work, what markets we could target, and even some rough revenue projections. At the end, he wrote, "If you're serious, I'm willing to invest $50,000 to get this off the ground. Let's meet." I stared at my screen for a full minute. I'd never seen that many zeros directed at me. My first instinct? It had to be a scam. But something about Alex's tone, direct, professional, no fluff, made me pause. After pacing my tiny apartment for an hour, I typed back, "When and where?" That was the moment I stepped onto a path I couldn't walk back from. We met in a co-working space in Soho. The place buzzed with the sound of keyboards and quiet conversations, walls lined with startup posters about changing the world. Alex was already there, laptop open, a folder neatly placed beside it. He didn't waste time with small talk. "I'm in a position to fund this, but I don't do charity. I invest in people who will work harder than anyone else in the room. Are you that person?" Something in me snapped into focus. "Yes," I said, without hesitation, even though my stomach was doing flips. He laid out the plan. He'd fund the launch, I'd run day-to-day operations, and we'd split equity. The catch? I'd need to quit my job in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. To walk away from my steady paycheck, my health insurance, my safe little office life. I remember gripping my coffee cup so hard my hand ached. But the thought of not taking this chance, that hurt more. "I'm in," I told him. And just like that, my old life had an expiration date. Telling my boss I was quitting felt like jumping into icy water. She stared at me over her glasses. "You're leaving for a guy you met in a coffee shop?" When she said it out loud, it sounded insane. I half expected her to laugh. Instead, she sighed and said, "I hope you know what you're doing." The truth? I didn't.
I just knew I'd regret staying more than I'd regret leaving. My last day was surreal. I packed my desk into one box, some pens, a half-dead plant, a photo of my team at a holiday party. Walking out of that glass building, I felt both weightless and terrified. Alex and I met the next morning in the co-working space. No ceremony, no champagne, just 2 laptops, a whiteboard, and a scribbled to-do list that looked like it could crush a small country. "Welcome to your new life," he said, grinning. And for the first time, it actually felt real.
The first week was chaos. We needed a name, a website, a supplier list, a marketing plan, and we needed all of it yesterday. Alex handled the legal paperwork and funding logistics, while I tried to convince independent designers to join a platform that technically didn't exist yet. Some laughed, others didn't respond. One designer actually hung up on me mid-sentence. By Friday night, I was sitting at my kitchen table surrounded by empty takeout boxes, wondering if I'd made the dumbest decision of my life. My savings were shrinking fast, and Alex's $50K looked smaller by the day once we factored in web development, branding, and initial stock purchases. I sent Alex a late-night text, "What if we fail?" His reply came instantly. "Then we learn faster than everyone else." I didn't know whether to be comforted or terrified, but I kept going.
2 weeks later, we finally had a working prototype of the website. It wasn't perfect. Some buttons didn't work, the logo looked slightly crooked, but it was live. We decided to run a small social media ad campaign targeting fashion lovers in New York and LA. I put in $200 of my own money just to feel like I had real skin in the game. Day 1, 34 visitors. Day 2, 89 visitors. Day 3, our first sale, a $120 handmade jacket from a Brooklyn designer. I almost screamed when I saw the notification. It wasn't about the money. It was proof that someone, somewhere, believed in what we were building enough to pull out their credit card. I sent Alex a screenshot with the caption, "We're real now." He just replied, "One down, 10,000 to go."
A week later, something crazy happened. One of our Brooklyn designers posted a TikTok showing how she made her jackets, tagging our site in the caption. The video blew up. Over 1.2 million views in 3 days. Our website traffic spiked so hard the server crashed. My phone buzzed nonstop with order notifications and customer questions. We went from 3 to 4 orders a day to over 200 in 48 hours. It was exhilarating and terrifying. We didn't have enough stock. Some designers were struggling to keep up with demand. Shipping times doubled. I spent nights answering angry emails from customers asking where their orders were. Alex stayed calm through it all. "This is a good problem," he said. "We just need to grow faster." Good problem or not, I was running on coffee, adrenaline, and 4 hours of sleep. And I knew this was just the beginning.
2 months in, our bank account was shrinking again. The TikTok surge had given us a spike in sales, but also a spike in costs. Emergency shipping fees, overtime payments to designers, server upgrades. We were making money, but burning through it even faster. Then came our first investor pitch. Alex had set it up with a small VC firm in Manhattan. We had 20 minutes to convince them we were worth betting on. The morning of the meeting, my laptop crashed, taking half the presentation with it. I wanted to throw up. Alex just looked at me and said, "We'll wing it. Passion beats slides." And somehow it worked. I talked about our vision, our designers, our customers, and when I finished, one of the investors leaned back and said, "All right, we're in for $250,000. I walked out of that office shaking, not just from excitement, but from the realization we weren't just surviving anymore. We were in the game.
With the new funding, everything accelerated. We moved into a bigger co-working space,
hired 2 part-time assistants, and expanded our designer list from 12 to 40. Orders were coming in from all over the US, and for the first time, we had customers in Canada and the UK. But growth brought problems we hadn't planned for. One designer accused another of stealing her designs, a supplier in California suddenly doubled their prices. Our payment processor froze $15,000 of our revenue for fraud review, right before payroll. I started waking up at 3 a.m. to check emails, terrified I'd missed some disaster that could sink us. Alex kept telling me, "This is what scaling feels like. Messy." Messy or not, I couldn't deny it. Every challenge we overcame made the company feel more real, and me more capable than I ever thought I could be.
It happened on a random Tuesday. We'd been featured in a small online magazine the week before. Nothing huge, just a niche publication for eco-friendly fashion lovers. But apparently, one of their writers had a friend who worked at Good Morning America. That friend pitched our story. And 2 weeks later, I found myself in a TV studio under blinding lights, holding one of our handmade jackets, explaining how we connected small designers to customers worldwide. The segment was only 4 minutes long, but by the time I got back to my desk, our inbox was overflowing. Celebrity stylists wanted samples, boutiques wanted wholesale orders, one LA-based designer offered to collaborate on an exclusive collection. Alex sent me a text with just 2 words. "We've arrived." And for the first time, I believed him.
A month after the TV spot, we got an email from a major retail chain, the kind with stores in every big US city. They wanted to carry our top-selling pieces in 200 locations. The contract on the table were $3.2 million. It sounded like the dream, but buried in the fine print were demands that would change everything. Bulk production overseas, exclusivity clauses, and a margin so thin our designers would barely make a profit. Alex was thrilled. I wasn't. It felt like selling out the very people we'd built this for. We argued for hours, voices raised, pacing the office. Finally, I said, "If we take this deal, we're not the same company anymore." We walked away. It hurt, but deep down, I knew saying no was the first real sign we were playing by our own rules.
The retail deal might have fallen through, but it lit a fire under us. Instead of chasing one massive client, we doubled down on what made us different: limited-run collections, personal stories from our designers, and a focus on sustainability. We launched a monthly spotlight campaign, telling the backstory of each creator and the process behind their work. Customers loved it. Sales climbed, steadily, not in spikes, but in solid, predictable growth. We opened a small studio in Brooklyn where designers could meet customers in person, turning online fans into loyal brand ambassadors. By the end of the year, revenue hit $1.8 million. Not as flashy as the $3.2 million retail deal, but every dollar felt earned. And more importantly, our community trusted us. Alex said it best one late night over pizza. "We're not chasing the big break anymore. We're building something that lasts." One afternoon, while clearing old files from my desk, I found the photo from my last day at the corporate job, the one where I was packing that single box. Back then, I'd been terrified, clinging to a paycheck and a job title I didn't even like. Now, I was leading a team of 18, working with over 120 designers worldwide, and shipping orders to customers in 27 countries. The best part? We'd just passed $5 million in total sales. Not because of a lucky break or one viral moment, but because of consistent work, tough choices, and a refusal to compromise on our vision.
I took a picture of that old photo and sent it to Alex with a text. "Worth it." He replied, "Every damn second."
Looking back, the biggest surprise wasn't the money. It was how much I changed. I went from fearing risk to chasing it with intention, from needing a boss's approval to trusting my own judgment, from thinking success was about luck to realizing it's about showing up every single day, even when you're tired, broke, or scared. If you're reading this and you're stuck in a job you hate, here's my advice. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to start. That first step might not make you rich. It might even make things harder before they get better. But somewhere along the way, you'll realize you've built something you can't put a price on. Freedom. And for me, that's worth more than every dollar in the bank.